folks, today I'm going to be answering an age-old question. Who is the strongest Shoto in Street Fighter? Okay, so if you guys don't know, Shoto stands for Shotokan, which was the style of karate that was originally said to be used by Ryu and Ken in Street Fighter. And then, of course, there are a bunch of characters whose fighting style is derived from Ryu and Ken. Characters like Akuma, Sakura, there's a bunch of them. So I'm going to use a scientific methodology to rank these Shotos and determine, beyond a shadow of a doubt, who is the strongest Shoto in the history of Street Fighter. So first, I want to explain my methodology a little bit so you guys can understand how I came to this conclusion. So first up, I want to talk about the characters, okay? There are maybe a million characters who could arguably be classified as Shotos. You know, people say Sagat's a Shoto, Terry Bogard's a Shoto, Mario from Smash is a Shoto, but I'm gonna use the lore definition, okay? Anyone who trained or was directly inspired by Ryu or Ken in the story is gonna be included. So I've narrowed it down to about 10 characters. I know there's going to be a lot of characters who people say should have been included in this list for one reason or another, but at the end of the day, I have to make this video a reasonable length, so we can't just go forever. We got 10 characters that we're going to be comparing. Next of all, let's talk about how I rank the characters. So I'm going based on tier lists for every game. I sort of researched what were considered the most reputable or the most widely discussed or agreed upon tier lists for those respective games, and I'm giving every character a ranking from 1 to 5, and then we average those scores across every game that the character appears in, and that will give the character a score from 1 to 5, which will show how strong they are on average. And as for what games I'm using, I decided that I was only going to use games that kind of still see a level of competitive play, or, you know, are still considered sort of main competitive entries in the Street Fighter series. So we're not going to be including crossover games like Capcom vs. SNK or Marvel vs. Capcom. We are including Street Fighter 2 Super Turbo, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, Street Fighter Alpha 1 and 2, Ultra Street Fighter 4, and Street Fighter 5. I know there's a lot of games that I'm not including on this, like Street Fighter EX, but a lot of those games that didn't see as much competitive play don't really have reputable tier lists that are available these days, so it would have been hard to get really good data. So I tried to keep it down to the games that I think are really well explored and have really reputable data in terms of what characters are strong or weak. But I've been talking for a long time. What do you say that we get into the list, guys? And we're going to start out with the number 10 strongest Shoto, the weakest Shoto of all time, arguably. Let's hop into the list. Alright, so coming in at number 10 on the list, this may not be a surprise to a lot of you, is gonna be Sean. Unfortunately, Sean only appeared in one game that I'm including for this video, and he was one of the worst characters in that game, usually considered the worst character in Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, or maybe the second worst down there with 12. Sean just has too many problems. Yes, he does have a decent dash, like the other Shotos in this game. He has some decent pokes, like his low forward and his sweep, but overall, he simply has too many problems to be viable. Unlike most Shotos, he doesn't have a fireball, so he can't really control screen space with a fireball. He only has the basketball. So many of Sean's moves are going to be extremely punishable on block. So his Tatsu Maki equivalent, his quarter circle back kick, very punishable on block. In fact, every version of this move is even unsafe on hit. So you even have to be careful hitting people with this move. He has lots of other unsafe moves as well, like he has this forward plus heavy overhead. You know, seems good. You can blow up the opponent for blocking low. But this move as well is punishable on hit, so you gotta be careful throwing this out. So Sean, his frame data is just awful. His Dragon Punch and his lack of Fireball mean that his special moves aren't as good as the other Shotos. If you look hard enough out there, you can find good Sean players because of the parry system. Generally, you can make any character work if you're skilled enough, but Sean is just so far below the rest of the cast in Street Fighter Third Strike that most people do consider him either the worst or second worst character, so that's why he's going to be at the bottom of the list with 1 point only, 1 out of 5. Next up, coming in at number 9 with a score of 1.5 is gonna be Dan. So obviously Dan is sort of intentionally bad in a way. He's kind of meant to be a bit of a joke character. He's got the world's stubbiest fireball. He's got very, very short range normals. His combos are generally pretty weak. He has a super taunt, which is pretty fun, but it doesn't actually do anything. So Yeah, Dan is bad. He's intentionally bad. So how did he get in above Sean? You know, it's funny. He's bottom tier in most games on the list that he appears in. But there are 2 games, Street Fighter Alpha 3 and Ultra Street Fighter 4, where he's just low tier. He's not all the way at the bottom. In Alpha 3, there are other characters like generally Birdie is considered very weak in that game. Armika is considered weak, generally considered even weaker than Dan. And then Ultra Street Fighter 4, depending on who you ask, looking at the different tier lists, there are characters like DJ is very, very weak in Ultra Street Fighter 4. Vega is considered very weak in that version. Dalsim is weak. So Dan is not one of the worst characters in those games, but he is pretty low down there. So that saves him from being all the way down with the 1 score like Sean. And of course, if you search long and hard, you can find people who can make Dan work. There was, of course, the classic match of Air versus Justin Wong, where Justin used Dan, and he could definitely make the character work, but of course, that's Justin Wong, one of the greatest players of all time. For most of us out there, Dan is going to be a struggle, and you're going to be better served by picking a slightly better character. But you know, if you like the jokes, if you like the memes, Dan can be a lot of fun. So definitely give him a try if you want to have a little bit of fun. But if you really want to win, you can definitely do better. So let's keep moving up the list and find some better characters here. All right, next up with a score of 2 points is going to be Kage. So Kage, he only appeared in 1 game, which is of course Street Fighter V, and there's a bit of disagreement with the tier list, so I could see an argument that maybe he should be higher, but from looking at tier lists from various top players such as Brian F and Punk and a few others, most people put him decently below average, so I ended up assigning him a score of 2 based on where he appears on the most tier lists. And of course, the tier lists for Street Fighter V are changing a lot. The game is getting patched. There's 1 final patch coming, so things can definitely change. But for now, I think he's sitting down here with a score of 2. He has some problems. He has this very short-range fireball, of course. He can't control screen space like Ryu or Ken using his fireball. His pokes are also a little bit stubby. He has weak reach for sure. But Kage does have some tricks up his sleeve as well. He can mix the opponent up in some interesting ways with his cross-ups. He does generally have very damaging combos, so he's going to be able to deal a lot of hurt out to the opponent when he does get in. His throw leaves him in a pretty advantageous situation, so he can mix the opponent up pretty well after throw as well, so he does have some ways of keeping his momentum going once he does get in. And of course, he has some other tricks as well, like a dive kick and a red fireball, kind of similar to Akuma. So of the characters we've seen so far, he's definitely the best. But he is generally considered probably the weakest of the Shotos that are available in Street Fighter V, of course, other than Dan. And once again, this was the only game that he appeared in, so there's not too much to compare with. But, you know, he's an interesting character design. I wouldn't be too upset if we see Kage come back in the future, and maybe he can get a shot at redemption with the upcoming balance patch in Street Fighter V as well, where he could get a little bit buffed. All right, next up, we've actually got a tie for 7th place, or I guess you could say it's a tie for 6th place. We've got 2 characters who only appeared in 1 game, and they're both solid mid-tiers, so they both score exactly 3 points, the first of which is going to be Gouken. So Gouken in the lore is actually the character who trained Ryu and Ken, and he's got a very similar moveset to them, but it's a little different. His Hurricane Kick moves up, and his Dragon Punch moves horizontal, so kind of an interesting change from those characters. And Gouken has a few things that make him a very solid character. He was never that strong in any of the Street Fighter 4 games, but he was usually somewhere around the middle, and he has a few decent things going for him. So for one thing, his fireball is very, very strong, and he can aim the fireball horizontal, or he can aim it vertical to try to catch jumpers. He can charge up the fireball to make it multiple hits. Most characters are going to need to spend EX bar to get a multi-hit fireball, but Gouken can get it just by charging it up. So his fireball keep away is very, very strong. He's got some very good pokes as well. His standing fierce is a very, very strong poke. And his crouching fierce is a very excellent anti-air as well. You can catch enemies jumping with this. His sweep as well, probably one of the best sweeps in the game. Excellent, excellent poke. And of course, he can combo off his back throw, which is very, very rare. Most characters cannot combo off of throws in Street Fighter games, but Gouken is the exception. So why is Gouken not that good if he has all these things going for him? So he does have a few issues. For example, some of his normals are very strange. For example, his crouching medium kick is more of like an anti-air move. It has no range, so he can't poke with crouching medium kick into fireball like most Shotos. It's not really an option available to him. And then his crouching medium punch as well. Very poor range on that, so it's hard for him to poke with that into fireballs as well. Because his Dragon Punch is a horizontal move, it's not going to have any invincibility, and in order to have invincibility on his Hurricane Kick, he needs to spend EX bar. So once the opponent gets in, it can be a little bit difficult to get them off. But we have seen plenty of players put in good results with Goken. For example, Shine from New York is considered one of the better Goken players, and he's put out great results against plenty of top players using this character due to the power of Goken's keep away combined with some of his mix-up options. The character can be very powerful. He's just not quite powerful enough to get above where he is on this list. So with a 3.0, we got Goken. And again, tied with Goken with exactly 3 points, another character who only appeared in Street Fighter 4 is Oni. So of course, there were always memes where people would say Oni is banned, like as a joke. I don't know where the meme comes from, but he actually never was banned. He was never that good, but he's a decently solid mid-tier in Ultra Street Fighter 4. So he has some of the problems we've seen before, like he doesn't have a full screen fireball unless you charge it up. So that can make it a little bit tough to control space. But offensively, Oni is a very, very strong character. So he has a lot of powerful link combos similar to some other characters in the game. He's able to link his normals effectively. He has target combos that he can use to get a lot of damage. He has a very good DP FADC Ultra, so similar to some other characters that we're going to see later on this list, being able to combo into Ultra, as well as making your Dragon Punch safe and letting you combo off it, is a very, very powerful tool in the Street Fighter 4 games, and he has that very effectively. But I think the main thing that people remember about this character that made him pretty hard to fight is his mix-up. So he has this move where he can hit you on the front or he can hit you on the back. It can be difficult to guess. The EX version especially, it's very hard to react to the cross-up, and he can combo off it, and he can even combo off it directly into Ultra as well. So he's able to keep the opponent guessing. He's able to mix up very effectively and convert all his mix-ups into tons of damage. So a very powerful character offensively, and he can keep the opponent standing and go for throw mix-ups. So once he gets in, Oni can be a very hard character to deal with, and he of course has a lot of the good Shoto normals. He's got a good low forward that he can special cancel. He's got a good sweep. So similar to Goken, Oni is a very solid mid-tier character, but not quite good enough to get him above the 3.0 score, walking home tied for 6th place. All right, we're into the top half of the list, and now I'm afraid we're really going to start to make people angry. I can sense it. Coming in here at number 5 is going to be Ryu. Ryu has an average score of 3.3, slightly above mid-tier, and I think that that makes sense, right? Ryu is generally a pretty balanced character. It's rare that he's super top tier. It's rare that he's super low tier. He's usually somewhere around the middle. So there are a few games I included in my list where he is extremely strong. For example, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. He's not top tier in this game, but he is very high tier, and he can hang with all the top tiers very effectively due to having very strong fireball. His red fireball especially is so fast. He's got the invincible Dragon Punch, of course, which is obviously a huge deal. He's able to stun the enemy quite effectively, especially utilizing his cross-ups. His jump medium kick cross-up can be a very powerful tool for mixing the opponent up. He also got a few extra tricks in Super Turbo, like he now has an overhead on medium punch, and he has the solar plexus punch on forward fierce, which he can use to pressure the opponent, as well as his super, which is going to go through fireballs and do lots of damage to help him win the fireball wars. So in Super Turbo, he's extremely strong. In Street Fighter Alpha 2, he's very strong as well, but just not quite top tier. And, you know, in other games like Third Strike, he's just a solid mid-tier. Street Fighter 4, solid mid-tier. Street Fighter 5, solid mid-tier. So he's a mid-tier in most games, which I think for the protagonist of the game, you know, he's the main character. He's the one that beginners are kind of expected to pick up and start the game with. I think it makes a lot of sense that he ended up right here on the middle of the list. Number 5 is going to be Ryu. Hopefully that doesn't upset you guys at home if you're Ryu fans, but, you know, it is what it is. And now, we're getting spicy. At number 4, we're settling the age-old debate, who's better, Ryu or Ken? It turns out, on average, It's Ken, okay? So Ken has a score of 3.8. Like I said, Ryu had 3.3, so Ken is a little higher. Similar to Ryu, Ken is usually solid in most games. He's actually worse in Super Street Fighter 2. He's worse than Ryu in Alpha 3. But there are a few games where Ken really rises to the top, like Street Fighter Alpha 2. Ken is considered top tier. He's usually considered better than Ryu because he has a better alpha counter and he has a roll that he can use for mix-ups. But the big one here is, of course, going to be Third Strike. Ken is top tier in Third Strike. Most people consider him the third best character behind Chun and Yoon. Maybe like Makoto can be up there as well, but Ken is very, very strong in this game, and a large part of that is due to his super. He has one of the best supers in the game. He gets 3 stocks of it, which is really powerful, having access to so many supers. It is 2-frame startup, so it comes out very fast. You can punish all kinds of stuff. Like I showed earlier, all those Sean moves that are punishable on hit, you can punish those with Ken's super, of course, very easily. And the super is going to lead you into kind of a mix-up situation where the opponent is going to be forced to guess on a cross-up or like an empty jump low. He can combo into super off his overhead if he catches the opponent while they're crouching. That's going to work. And he has some strong pokes that Ryu doesn't have access to. He has forward plus medium kick, which is going to step forward and cover a lot of space. And he's got standing roundhouse, which is going to reach really far and smack the opponent in the face for a lot of damage. So Ken is a monster in Third Strike. He's a monster in Alpha 2. And overall, he just barely has the edge over Ryu. So once again, I'm sorry Ryu fanboys, but Ken is going to win out this time. But that's not the end of the list, guys. We have 3 Shotos who are even stronger than Ryu and Ken. Can you believe it? Let's jump into it to number 3 on the list. Alright guys, we're into the top 3. Things are getting really juicy now. Coming in at number 3 with a score of exactly 4 is gonna be Evil Ryu. So Evil Ryu only appeared in 2 games that are on my list, Ultra Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter Alpha 2. And let me tell you, this man is top tier in Ultra Street Fighter 4. In fact, if we weren't including Alpha 2, he would probably be number 1 on the list because he was generally considered top tier in Ultra. He'd have a score of perfect 5, but he is usually considered mid tier in Alpha 2. He was actually banned for a while because he was only available on the US arcade cabinet, so not all versions of the game had him. But usually now he's not really banned, and most people do consider him worse than regular Ryu in that game because he does have lower health. He has a glitch where he can use custom combo to break your guard from further away than normal, but it's not really enough. Ryu with lower health and a few extra tools is just mid-tier in Alpha 2. But let's talk about Street Fighter 4, where this character is absolutely insane. So he has very fast walk and dash speed. He's one of the most mobile Shotos in the game. He has some very powerful pokes. He has one of the longest reaching crouching medium kicks in the game, so he can poke with this into fireball from very, very far away. His sweep is very effective as well. He's got that Akuma sweep. But his combos are really where this character starts to be crazy. He has this axe kick that he can actually link off of, so he can get massive damage using that and keep his combos going. And his EX axe kick hits overhead, so he's got some extra mix-up potential there. You have to be scared of throw, you have to be scared of overhead, you have to be scared of towards medium punch overhead as well. And of course, he has a Raging Demon, so he can keep you on your toes with that, go for huge damage punishes. Or he can do Kara Demon to cancel the startup of his overhead into Raging Demon to catch you if you're trying to block. But of course, we couldn't discuss Evil Ryu without discussing this extremely famous moment from Street Fighter 4 where Daigo played Evil Ryu against Momochi. He gets this stun, and watch how many links he lands in this combo. I don't know exactly how many one-frame links, but it's a lot, like 8 or 9 or something, I don't know. And each one has a 1/60th of a second timing window, and if he doesn't hit it exactly right, he's going to drop the combo. So absolute insanity here, even with all the combo scaling after the stun. Just so incredible. So this is why people like Evil Ryu, and this is one of the reasons why he is such a powerful character, is his insane offense and damage. All right, next up, this might surprise some of you guys. The number 2 Shoto of all time is gonna be Sakura, or Sakura, however you guys want to say it. The character is strong. So yeah, she has some issues, like her fireball doesn't go full screen. Okay, her Dragon Punch isn't invincible. Unlike Ryu and Ken, you can't really use this as a reversal. But even despite that, she is generally a very strong character. In every single game I included for comparing the character tiers here, she's at least highish tier. You know, she's high tier in Street Fighter V, Ultra Street Fighter 4, Alpha 3, and she's pretty top tier in Alpha 2. She's usually considered somewhere within like the top 5. And some of the reasons for this are generally she has really strong combos that lead into knockdown setups where she can utilize her cross up. She tends to have a very good cross up for mixing the opponent up, and she can loop the pressure. Her throw also tends to leave her in a good position to go for cross ups or other mix ups. And again, she can loop into more pressure, do lots of damage. She tends to have very good normals as well. Her sweep is good in most games. Her standing roundhouse tends to have ridiculous range and poking potential. Her close fierce is always a very strong normal as well, smacking the opponent and helping her mix up with tick throws. So she may not have the same sort of fireballs and uppercuts, Shoto fireball trap that Ken and Ryu have in a lot of games, but if you're looking for a character with strong mix-ups, strong combo potential, strong pokes and footsies, she is definitely an amazing character. In most games, she is either upper mid, high tier, or sometimes even top tier, depending on the game. So don't sleep on Sakura, even though she's a schoolgirl. She will destroy you. Definitely a crazy good character. So Sakura came in with a score of 4.3, but our next character, Akuma, is going to be the #1 most powerful Shoto of all time. On average, he has an average score of 4.7. This man stays top tier. So obviously his first appearance in Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, he was so powerful he had to be banned. Because he was really a boss character. He was not intended to be balanced. But even if we don't include Super Turbo, he's still the best character on the list. He is top tier in Alpha 2, Alpha 3, Ultra Street Fighter 4. He's banned tier in Super Turbo, and he's very high tier currently in Street Fighter 5. He used to be top tier in Street Fighter 5, not so much anymore. And he's even pretty high tier in Third Strike. Such a competitive game. We got Chun, Yun, Ken, Makoto, but Akuma is not too far behind. He's a very effective character. And basically, I think the reason why Akuma is always so good is just his core design is they just decided we're going to make a character extremely powerful in every single aspect, except he has low health. That's the way they balance him, is he tends to have the lowest health in every game he's in, but everything else he has is incredible. So he's got really good rush down. He's hard to anti-air because he's got these very effective dive kicks. He's got the demon dive flip, which he can use to mix the opponent up. They're going to have to guess, is he going to go high, low, or throw anytime he does this move. He always has the Shoto classics. He's got an invincible dragon punch. He's got a very strong fireball. He's got a meterless multi-hit fireball. Rare property to have, but he can win fireball wars using this, so it's hard to even try to use fireballs against Akuma. Just in case that wasn't enough, he also has an air fireball, which he's oftentimes going to be able to combo off of, or at least use to start pressure. By the way, his meterless damage always tends to be really high. They usually let him combo from Hurricane Kick, Tatsumaki into uppercut, so he gets a lot of meterless damage that the other Shotos tend to not get. He tends to have some pretty good supers. In Third Strike, he has a very effective super. And, you know, sometimes in Third Strike, anti-airing with a Dragon Punch can be a little bit scary, because what if they parry it? But Akuma doesn't really have to worry about that. He can just cancel into his super, and if he mixes in other attacks while you're parrying the super, there's nothing really you can do. Yes, the AI can parry it here in training mode, but in a real match, people are not going to be able to parry that. So he has some of the best anti-air potential in Third Strike as well. Just an insane character in every respect except health and stun bar. And of course, we've seen the results for this character in tournament. Akuma is a mainstay of high-level play across many games. Probably the most famous Akuma player is Tokido from Japan. He's made this character do amazing things in Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5. He's won EVO with Akuma. And yeah, this character, he just does so much. His damage is out of control. His mix-up, what a powerful character. But honestly, pretty fun to watch as well. So I think for most people, we might not be too surprised to see Akuma up here, considering he usually does end up near the top of the tiers. But what did you guys think about the other characters? Were you surprised at all with the placement? let me know what you think. And if you have any suggestions for maybe how I could improve my methodology, do you think I should include more games? Maybe games that don't see that much competitive play? I don't know. If that's something you guys would be interested in and you want to see me do something like this for different categories of characters, or maybe compare characters across all archetypes, not just Shotos. I don't know. I'm open to suggestions, so hit me up down in the comments. Let me know what you think. I'm looking forward to reading them, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I worked really hard on this, assembling all the data and collecting all the clips and stuff, so if you guys could like the video, if you liked it, it would really, really help me out. So with that, we're going to end the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.